The views and opinions expressed in this video are those of the speakers and panelists, and do not necessarily reflect the position of the ETHOS Institute for Public Christianity and its founding institutions and organizations.
Is Jesus God?
Migrant workers and human rights from a Christian perspective.
Marriage and family.
ISIS presents a much bigger threat.
How do we integrate the Bible with our scientific understanding?
Are you able to actually describe and articulate clearly your own sense of purpose in life?
One of the stories that I say in the book, and I'm putting you back on the spot, is about creation care. Because I think when you look at cities, it's like, it's polluted, there's so much trash, and Singapore has got a very, very high carbon footprint, largely because of our air conditioning, and because we probably can't survive without air conditioning during the day. So, but creation care has to be an important part for Christians, and it's definitely part of our theology. So, Lawrence does some work in China on planting trees. Maybe you also want to tell us about that, because that also deals at the different structural levels of a city. So on the one hand, I know you plant trees, but on another level, you actually can talk to government officials. Can you tell us about that?
Actually, I embarked on this environmental journey 20 years ago when I went to Yangon on an environmental conference. So I was asked to present something on environment. What do I know? I'm not an environmental engineer or scientist. So what do? I present the history. I'm a historian by training. So I share the history of how Singapore cleaned up the wonderful river, the Singapore River, right? From the black and smelly river into a very beautiful one. You can have powerboat races, and now you can walk hand in hand and stroll in the evening. So we talk about the river cleanup, and of course our technology, using membrane technology, of how we treat water, right? Water is a big challenge in many cities in Asia and even many countries. So anyway, then I discovered that a lot of our counterparts in Southeast Asia, they were doing environmental projects, even in the city, at a very simple level. And one of that is something we are very familiar with, planting trees, right? Of course, we are so used to tree planting in Singapore that it's often just planting that one tree, a photo moment, for some people, yeah. But so I heard about people in Cambodia and Thailand. They were not only planting trees; they were ordaining forests. Entire village, entire communities were involved. And I asked them, "How do you get started?" They said, "Well, the Buddhist monks gave us saplings to plant." I said, well, the pastors can also do that, right? That's something that we can start to do. So I embarked on that. So tree planting became nearly like a joke, because when we went to foundations to ask for funding, they said, we're not going to give you $1. What? Especially planting trees in the desertified grassland of Inner Mongolia. Nothing can grow there. And you go to the lowest plateau of northwest China, it's even worse, But basically, we help them to realize it's not just about planting trees, that's important, but about environmental awareness raising. So we launched out, and from Shanghai, we started with Shanghai, helping them to think about the Whampoa River. Everybody likes to go to the Shanghai Bund and look at all the beautiful skyscrapers, but a lot of the water there is polluted. At one point, they had 1,000 pigs, that were suffering from some pig disease, all thrown into the river. That was the state. And Suzhou River was absolutely black and smelly as well. But anyway, that raised within a certain district in Putong, and awareness raising about environmental consciousness. And it's fantastic for Christians to participate in leading all these interviews and helping them to realize you don't have to be doing big projects. You can start. In those days, without all this modern technology, So we were just teaching all the residents how you can put a 1.5 liter Coke bottle, fill it with water, and put it in your, flush, in the water system. So you minimize the usage of water in your flush. So we adopt very simple, practical ways. And even in Singapore, I think we can continue to do that, and we have organized every year a YES forum. That is Youth in Environmental Stewardship. So we empower young people from 13 years old to 18 years old to come, and it's a forum organized by the young people for the young people, led by the young people. They had their own speakers and all that. So it's fantastic because, in schools today, every class has an environmental monitor. So what does an environmental monitor do? A lot of times they themselves think that my role is to empty the waste paper basket, or make sure you do area cleaning in a classroom, But when they come to all these forums, they discover, wow, the scope is tremendous, because we had students from the School of the Arts come and perform items that will highlight the environmental challenge, the climate change action that's needed and all that. So I remember even when we had one of this forum at Unisim then, the lecturer who was our partner came and said, Ms. Lawrence, we're not supposed to have religious, because she knows I'm a pastor. We're not supposed to have religious program in our forum. As you know, we don't have any religious program. So they said, but your program has this prayer. I said, no, you see, this is a prayer, it's a song item. Prayer by Justin Bieber. The girls from the art school is going to dance to the song, So anyway, it's fun, and then through it all, the young people discovered that they have the power to start taking action to promote a movement within their school, or starting with their own class, So I think this is fantastic ways that perhaps the church, or many of us who are more qualified, I always say that the actions that I do to participate in this is like the Chinese say, 抛砖引玉. You throw a towel and hope they get so upset they throw a jade back at me. So I can collect the jades.
So environmental care is one of those that it's a very grassroots thing. But I also remember, I think whether you told me or read in your book, that Chinese officials are also interested, yeah? Yes. So then, even as a Christian, then you can interact and discuss with them, yeah.
So the Chinese, good opportunities, like a place like China that is quite restricted, and now it's tightened up over the last few months, in terms of Christian missions engaging in China. But if you go there and participate in many of these activities, including environmental projects, they roll out the red carpet. They welcome you with open arms, and it's fantastic, because when you do real projects, don't just do it as a bait, to do your church planting per se, but you can first plant the trees, and then when you have plant the seeds of hope, you plant the seeds of faith, and then a church can be planted. It's not a problem. I've heard this from the government officials. I say, why are there no church in this county? I say, because very few Christians, so there are many mosques, but not many Christians. So I say, okay, so that's the game plan. So does that mean that if there are more Christians, you have a church? Yeah, we can do that. You can work through the Bible Society too, to plant a church there, because they are open to these ideas, So, and often they ask me, 哇，邱先生千里迢迢这么辛苦跑到内蒙来这里种树 it's such a tedious overland route. So they say, wow, it's very tiring to come all the way just to plant trees. So I tell them, 因为这是我天父世界, this is my Father's world. So as Christians, as believers, that's what we do, to care for His creation. So recently we had a group from the CMP, the Certificate Mission Practice, to go as a eco-mission trip. So, Christians, they like to perform Christian songs, right? And trying to evangelize the officials who are sitting there. So the head of forestry was, they understand what's going on, right? And they know that this group is all Christian, because we have devotion together with them, in sitting in. And so he was just telling me, last time one of your group members gave me a Bible, So, okay, I read it, but I don't understand what the Bible, and by the way, I'm a Communist Party member, So all that to say that actually it's a fantastic way to build relations to be a good witness, to show that this is what we stand for, these are our convictions, and you can do it very openly, very publicly, and I think that's a good way to relate and engage in restricted access countries.
Yeah, so urban issues are there, and I think we're familiar with them, and there's a lot of it does have to do with the environment. A lot of it has to do with helping to create, to make the place clean, healthy, electricity, clean running water, enough for them then to have a better start in life. What more can be done? What more can we do? What can be done? And actually, I took this. It's Banksy, and again Banksy because he's a known urban artist. Yeah, it's keep your coins, I want change. The pun on that. What more can and should Christians be doing? What are some current lacks or holes in ministry? I think one suggestion that I would have is that if all of us, all Christians, have a sound theology of work, that we do our work well. That means that Christians in all sectors, whether you are a civil servant and can affect policy change, whether you're a social worker and you're trying to solve people problems, whether you're doing admin to help run organizations smoothly, all these actually have an impact on how our city is and what we can make the city to be. There is some work, I think, which has a much more direct impact on life in the city. And I'm thinking of people like cleaners and sweepers. I mean, if there were no cleaners, we would definitely feel it. Christians can and should, as Lauren suggested, be much more engaged in the arts, be involved in all kinds of artistic expressions, and therefore build up the intangible qualities of the city. Because the three parts that I've talked about, the structure, infrastructure, and superstructure, they're all interrelated. And affecting one, building up one well, would actually affect other parts of it as well. We have a concept of doing good. So I suggest that it's not just going to a city and trying to solve problems. Yes, there are problems, and yes, we should do something about it. I also suggest that I think what we can be doing in cities is to be creating a place called home. Home, favorite National Day song, home is a place. Home is somewhere that I'm comfortable. Home is needed because we all need somewhere to be comfortable in order for us to be and for us to flourish. So many people in cities, right? And there are all kinds of people. People who are displaced, who are migrants, people who come from broken homes, people who are homesick. And if church and Christian communities we are there to help create a sense of home, safe places and environments with activities which nourish the soul and the body. We then give people hope, and a hope of what could be. And then when people have hope, I think they can also contribute, they can be doing more. Then they want to do something that will build up the city as well. So apart from what you've shared, Lawrence, would there be other dreams that you may have for what can be done in cities?
Yes, I think I like what you said about home and hope. I think the city can be really a place where people can call home, and a place where they can find hope. I like that very much. I think it boils down to perhaps in terms of dreams, maybe thinking again back to the church. What does the church understand about the gospel itself? So I think for some of us who are familiar with the Lausanne movement, in our last Go Forth in 2014, we borrowed that tagline, the whole church bringing the whole gospel, right, into the whole world. So we kind of shorten it, the whole church in the whole world. And I think we need to really understand the gospel is really holistic. And holistic is not just saving the soul, but also how do we renew the mind and transforming the hearts and building a sense of home and hope in a city. I really like that. So I think this year, our Go Forth, we have actually the very direct tagline, Go Urban, to encourage the church to consider the city as the urban mission field. In fact, the cities are the harvest fields of the 21st century. I think in this book, again, Dr. Kwa has a lot of information and statistics and all the key sociological and urban movements and all the information is captured here to tell us that we are really in a process of witnessing a huge urban migration happening. So what do we do? So personally, my dream will be that the church can begin to take urban mission seriously, and to see how we can start training a new generation of people who can engage in the cities. Perhaps I wouldn't even call them urban missionaries anymore, because we need to change the whole concept perhaps of missions, because when you think about missions, and having just sat through a few missions committee meetings with different churches a couple of last 2 months, you find that a lot of them are still stuck with the idea that missions is to the mountains and villages to help the really rural poor. But the bulk of this unreached people group and the rural poor, they are here in the cities, So at our anniversary dinner 2 weeks ago, we had the CEO of HDB sharing, and I like what she shared. She's an urban visionary. So I was thinking maybe we should call all of us who are engaged in the cities, we should call them urban visionaries, and we should start awarding, ETHOS Institute can start awarding urban visionary prizes to those, top 10 who has made an impact. Sponsored by you. Get the corporates to sponsor, And that's where you can get the corporates, you can get the government, you can get a lot of organizations involved, because they can make culture, they can make media, they can do a lot of things in the cities, that ordinary citizens can participate, and why not led by Christians, right? So in Taipei, I was getting back to Creation Care. If you go to Taiwan, you find that there's a Buddhist group. They are very, very strong in environmental transformation of the city. Every day, they have thousands of volunteers walk the streets and collecting garbage for recycling, right? And out of this, they generate so much revenue that they go and produce a lot of Buddhist media, including TV series, and having been in Christian media myself for 7 years, I'm very jealous. Buddhist media is given free of charge, and the Christian media, the DVDs and all that, is the most expensive DVD in the whole wide world. Even you can get the pop singers CDs at half the price. But the point is this: they are investing all this to impact the city through TV series, not just a 20-minute documentary per se, but a 40-week TV series with characterization that changes mindsets and cultures and give the city heroes, three-dimensional heroes through the TV series that they can remember and model, what it means to be living in the city. So isn't that a great vision that the church can actually participate and invest a lot of money into things that can have a greater impact beyond an evangelistic event?
Yeah, so there's a lot of potential in cities. Again, random artwork that I can't even remember where I think Glasgow or something. Now there's so many cities that have this sort of art, and then the dreams. Yeah, so there's so much that is being done and can be done. And honestly, Singapore does city very well. And the MND, a lot of resources are available free online. If you go to livable cities, I've listed the websites, the government websites there. Journals and the conferences that the Singapore government has, a lot of it is just free online. I mean, and the government has spent a lot of money bringing all these big thinkers in. Then use the material. And because we do, because Singapore does cities so well, I think the Christian church has really benefited. We have thrived. You know, if you look at that Jeremiah verse, seek the welfare of the city, for when it prospers, you too will prosper. When the city prospers, the church prospers. It's that first. It's very interesting. You think that, well, you know, I'm the church, so I will make the city prosper. No. It's when the city prospers, the church prospers. And so what can we be doing in mission, for instance, when many of our churches, as Christians, we go overseas in missions, and then or what we end up doing is going to serve the rural poor in Thailand or what. Why don't we tackle Bangkok? Why don't we work with Bangkok churches and see what can we be doing to help them build up Bangkok and make that a beautiful city, a wonderful city. I mean, I think many of us are proud that we live here and what Singapore has become. We can use these resources, and I wouldn't be surprised if you find some funds somewhere from the government that allows you that will help to pay for us to do some of this work in missions and helping other cities and prosper for them, and therefore, as the city prospers, the people will prosper. Then, can we be doing missions to create good places? Not just evangelizing the soul, but helping churches in other countries where we go create places of home, create home for them and for people who live in their cities.